In the historical war between humans and demons throughout history, a legendary hero named Matias emerges, who fights demons and defeats them with ease. Afterwards, Matias talks to himself and determines his goal in life, that he will always fight monsters to improve himself, and the mark on his hand is the most important thing that makes him always want to improve and become stronger. But the mark on Matias' hand is not the only mark he has, and actually he has 3 marks. The first mark on his hand is responsible for production, the second mark on his hand is more responsible for his inner strength, and the third one specializes in fast, magical attacks. Therefore, if Matias wants to become stronger, he must fight more in order to get the 4th mark, which specializes in close magical combat. But people are born with this mark, so it is impossible to change it. So he decides to change his world and move to a new one in order to get the 4th mark. Now in the new world, Matias is born and we see him at the age of 12 on his way to the royal capital, and Matias travels with his father by horse carriage to enter the central academy where he will learn to fight. Despite being 12 years old, Matias is stronger than many people his age, so he can take the academy's exams from a young age. Matias tells his father that he is excited to enter the academy and gain more strength, but his father tells him to be patient and not to get too excited even if he is strong. Matias is talking to his father about the royal capital, when all of a sudden he tells his father that there's a huge monster nearby. His father doesn't care and laughs at him, saying, "You must mean the legendary monsters that don't appear around here." But all of a sudden a huge mythical beast appears in front of them and cuts them off, and Matias' father is terrified and thinks the beast is a skeleton. Matias attacks it with a sword and easily disposes of it. Then he gets back on the carriage and tells his father to continue on their way, because Matias has a power that makes him double his body size and can attack huge monsters and dispose of them easily. He arrives in the royal capital and realizes that it is very different from the city he grew up in. As he walks through the streets looking at the new buildings, he hears a girl yelling at someone in some building, asking him to make her a new sword because her companion's sword broke. Matias enters the house and realizes it is a blacksmith's workshop, and the blacksmith tells the girl to calm down and not to raise her voice and he will make her what she wants. She apologizes and says that her friend was protecting her from a huge monster and her sword broke while she was fighting it. The blacksmith says, "I can't make a magic sword like the one with your companion, but he can make a strong sword without magic." Matias realizes that the blacksmith makes very powerful swords, but none of them have magical powers. The girl screams and tells the blacksmith that he must act and make a new magical sword, especially since her companion is going to take the academy exam the next day. But the blacksmith insists on his opinion and says, "You can go to another place that will make you a magic sword." The girl gets nervous and says that normal swords are too heavy and you can't control them easily. Suddenly they hear the voice of Matias offering to use his magic and make them the magic sword they want. The blacksmith says, "I understand that you want to show off in front of her, but you shouldn't say you can do something you can't do." Matias says that the 4th mark he has is still weak, but he can use it to do the magic they want. And before the blacksmith says any word, the girl interrupts him, gives him a magic stone, buys a powerful sword from him, and decides to rely on Matias and let him try his magic on her. The girl introduces herself to Matias and says that her name is Alma Labush, and that she left home because she didn't want to marry someone her father forced her to marry. He also introduces himself and says, "My name is Matias Held, but you can call me Mate." Alma's friend Luri arrives and asks, "What did you do at the blacksmith's?" Alma introduces her to Matias and tells her he's going to make them a magic sword. Matias takes the sword from the blacksmith, puts a magic stone in it, does a steel cutter spell with a stamina spell, and turns it into a magic sword in 1 second. He hands the sword to Luri and says, "You can try it now." Luri brings the sword closer to the table and it splits in half without any effort, and they are all surprised at the level of magic that makes the sword so powerful and how Matias was able to do it so quickly. He tells them that it was no effort and that it was just ordinary magic. The next day it's time for the practical test that determines if the students are accepted into the academy or not. The test measures the students' swordsmanship and magical abilities. Luri is surprised that Matias is taking the test with them, and Alma leaves after the tactics test is over, saying that it was a very difficult test and she did everything she could. Lori starts the fencing test with the instructor, and he notices that she has gaps in her fencing, so he attacks her, telling her that her abilities are strong, but she needs to cover the gaps, and before he attacks her again, he looks at his sword and finds it broken. He is surprised to find Lori pointing a sword at his head and saying, "Surrender." The trainer asks her about the sword and she says that Matias did the magic on it. Matias' turn comes and he confronts the most powerful of the trainers and says, "You're the one who worked the magic on Lori's sword, and I'm the chief trainer, and I want to know what skills you learnt from your father, Castor." Matias is surprised that the chief instructor knows his father, and the chief instructor says that he has known him for a long time, so he will make him pass all the tests. As the duel begins, the chief instructor raises his sword. Matias realizes that his grip on the sword has a lot of gaps, and he suspects that the chief instructor is underestimating him. But Matias tells himself that this is just a test, and only a fraction of his true strength will be on display. Matias attacks the head coach. The head coach hits him with a sword, and Matias protects himself with his own sword. Surprisingly, Matias is able to block a blow with his small body. The duel is intense, and Matias is able to strike the sword of Gil, the master trainer and the knight, and fly it away. Gil loses, and everyone is surprised by the strength of the new student. When it's time for the magical abilities test, the trainer calls Lori to start. The test requires each student to throw an arrow and hit 5 targets. Lori activates her fire power and shoots an arrow that hits the first target. Matias realizes that Lori is using a type of magic called chanting, where she says the spell with her tongue and it is activated with her hands. The problem with this magic is that if you're attacked, the level is weak because you can't say the spell with your tongue, so the spell is old to Matias, and he wonders how they're still using it. Lori can shoot an arrow at any target, and everyone congratulates her and wishes they had her glory mark, a favorite in magical battles. When it's Matias's turn, he asks the trainer if he can use the fire arrow, but the trainer says it's the easiest thing to use, but you don't have to use it and you can use any method you like. He asks the trainer to move back a little so that he doesn't get hurt, and he does a very powerful magic without speaking with his tongue, hitting all the targets in one shot, destroying them all, and making a big hole in the ground from the force of the explosion. Matias, Lori, and Alma are accepted into the academy, and they are all dressed in chic outfits for the opening ceremony. The students line up in an organized queue to hear the headmaster's speech. The headmaster introduces himself and says his name is Edward and he hates to talk much, so he will only tell them that the first academy is not the same as the second academy. And the other academy, if you want to go there, you have to have great skills, no matter what your family's income level is, and he leaves the stage and comes down. But as he comes down, he calls out to Matias from among the students and says, "Come to the office when it's over." After the party is over, Matias goes to the principal's office, talking to himself because he is afraid of being expelled on his first day at school for destroying the testing area, and even though he fixed it with the magic of restoration, he is afraid the principal will expel him for doing so. Before he knocks on the door, he finds the principal standing behind him and says, "Come in." Matias is surprised to find the headmaster and all the trainers standing in the middle of them, and he says, "You were able to defeat the chief knight, and you used silent magic to test your magical abilities, and being the son of Castor could be an obvious explanation for your strength, but there must be another explanation that no one knows about." But the headmaster doesn't want to know, and all he wants is for Matias to help them evaluate the performance of his friends in the tests. He asks them why they use such a weak method, and why they use magic with their tongue instead of using silent magic. Matias is surprised when the headmaster says that no one in the city knows how to use silent magic, which is why the other academy is trying to practice it and bring it back and train the students in it. But their problem is that the other academy is in the capital. The rich support the first academy's teaching methods, so they have no choice but to implement the teachings of the first academy. When Matias takes the instruction book from the instructor, he realizes that it's all outdated. The headmaster explains to him that in the next competition he wants him to enter with them and use silent spells, so that they can convince the king and the rich to use silent magic. The headmaster asks him to teach them how to use silent magic. The lesson begins, and the students are surprised to find that their instructor is Matias, and the instructor asks him to show them a demonstration of silent magic. He flies into the air and shoots fire out of his hand, hitting all the targets without blowing his horn. But the coach tells them that it's not Matias who uses silent magic, and gives a signal to the coach next to him. He shoots fire with his sword, but the fire only hits one target. The trainer tells them that he trained one day in silent magic with Matias, yet he has reached the level he is at now. The lesson begins and the students all try the silent magic, and Alma is very happy that she was able to use it once and goes to tell Matias. Matias goes to check Lori's level and finds that her magic power is gone, and Lori realizes that Matias has the ability to transfer magical power to anyone just by holding his hand. A month later, Matias is able to teach the students silent magic, and on the day of the competition, the whole school gathers in a large square to watch the students compete. Lori wishes they hadn't chosen one of the magic chosen in the competition as well. Matias asks her who they are and learns that they are a group of powerful leaders from the first academy. Every time the other academy is about to win the competition, one of the leaders attacks them and makes them lose. The marker in Matias's hand lights up and he tells her that one of them actually exists and is 10 times more powerful than Matias. She says, if he's 10 times more powerful than you, he's got the power of a demon. Matias asks them if demons are enemies in their world, and they explain that demons are enemies of humans and have great power. So much so, that if the magic of the whole kingdom were combined, they would not be able to get rid of a single demon. The competition begins, and Matias goes out to face 3 of the chosen leaders, and they beat him because he is alone, and ask him if his friends who were supposed to come with him have run away. They ask him if his mates who were supposed to come with him ran away and left him. The headmaster of the second academy talks to his assistant and says that the second academy has given up hope of winning the competition, which will be the 65th time in a row that the first school has won the competition. When the chosen ones gloat over Matias, he realizes that they are actually demons in disguise, hiding their true form in the form of humans. The competition begins and Les and Jess attack Matias with all their might, but Matias doesn't move and hits them both in one fell swoop. Matias realizes that demons are the reason why humans are so weak, and they are the reason why humans no longer use silent magic. He attacks the next chosen one and they duel with great force until Matias uses a spell that destroys the devil's spell and hits him with a sword, causing him to revert back to his true form as a devil with wings. Everyone is surprised to find out that Devils was actually a demon and that the other academy had been using him all along to cheat the first academy. The headmaster of the second academy stands in the middle of the crowd and asks the guards to call the royal palace to inform them of what happened. Before the demon flies off and tries to escape, Matias hits him with his sword, but his sword breaks, and the headmaster can't believe he can get rid of a demon so easily. Matias remembers his memories of the other world when his name was Jayas and he was able to defeat all the demons easily. After Matias moved to the new world to take the 4th mark, his name in the new world became Matias and his family was named Held. He began to explore the new world and was surprised to find that the most powerful mark in the world was described as the weakest and undervalued, and the spell-casting techniques were weak and no one knew how to use them. In the competition arena, after Matias defeats the demon disguised as a student at the first academy, the people gather around the demon and are afraid to approach it, lest it be booby-trapped and kill them, and Matias then goes with the manager to meet the king. But before they enter, Matias asks the headmaster why people are surprised that he was able to get rid of one weak demon, and is surprised by the headmaster's words that no one in the history of the world has ever been able to get rid of any demon or even stand up to it. They enter the king's presence and he welcomes them. He introduces himself and says that he is a freshman at the second academy and my name is Matias Held. Under normal circumstances, the king would spread the news to all the people, celebrate him and give him a lot of land. But in order not to cause panic among the people and make them worry about the idea that demons could hide in their midst, he could not do that. The king thinks he wants a magic sword and says, "I'll give you a sword." A blacksmith came to me 2 days ago and said that the magic in it was done by a young boy and that he had never seen magic as powerful as this before. Matias thinks that the blacksmith asked him to make him another sword after he made Lori's sword, which is what the king is talking about. But the king realizes that he doesn't like the gift and asks if there's anything he has in mind. He asks the king for the right to use Djamiz in the kingdom. Djamiz is worth more than gold, and in the world he used to live in, kingdoms have gone to war over Djamiz. But since the magic in this world is weak, they don't know anything about the value of Djamiz. The king agrees and gives him the right to use the Djamiz in the kingdom as he wishes. After the king grants Matias's wish, he asks his opinion on an important matter, saying that the 4 students of the magical chosen have suddenly disappeared, including Erhard, the last leader of the Mages Guild. We know that the chosen ones first appeared 600 years ago, which means that for 600 years demons have been infiltrating the kingdom. And in the ancient world of Matias, the demons were on the verge of extinction, but after Matias died, some of the demons must have infiltrated the human world and spread false magical information in order to weaken human magic and control them. The king asks him, since you were able to eliminate a demon, will the danger of demons be lessened in the coming period? But Matias surprises him that the danger will increase even more, and since the 4 chosen magicians escaped, it means that they were demons, and there is no point in disguising themselves and they will appear in their true form, so the demons' next plan is to gather themselves and attack the kingdom. But Matias surprises them that the demons are not organized, and if they want to work together against us, it will take them at least 3 months. The king says that 3 months is too little, but Matias says that he can do many things in 3 months. The first is to build a huge barrier around the kingdom to prevent demons from entering. The barrier will be made with an artifact that will allow them to create a permanent barrier, and if all the students of the other academy put their hands together and work, they can complete the whole thing in just 1 month. In the meantime, Matias suggests that they continue their study of silent magic, but the king is not confident that they can stand up to the demons on their own. Since Matias was able to vanquish a demon on his own, the king appoints him as the leader of the battle to repel the demon's attack. He goes down to the tool shed and gets permission from the king to take any tool he needs to build the barrier he says he needs. He searches for the magic stones he needs to build the barrier, and if he can't find them, he has to use Demas instead. Matias spots a powerful sword, and the guard tells him that they found it in an old ruined house, but unfortunately no one knows how to use it yet. Matias reaches for it and realizes that he made the sword himself in his old world. The sword is made of a material harder than Eureka, a material suitable for the barrier to be strong. He also took a chain that he had made that could amplify his experience points. The next day, Matias returns to the academy and is pleased with the performance of his classmates who have improved in silent magic. He meets Lori and Alma and they tell him that they heard he wants to build a barrier around the city. He tells them that he's going to go round to the Demas to get the amount of material he needs to build the barrier. He offers them to go with him, but Alma says she can't go with him because she can't fight as well with a sword as she can with arrows, and arrows are weak in hand-to-hand combat. But Matias teaches her a new spell that doubles the power of the arrows and makes them fast enough to go head-to-head. The three of them start looking for the demons, and Lori is surprised to find that there are demons underneath the academy. He tells her that the monsters are under the academy, but they are low level, and if they kill them, they can take the Demas stones with them. He teaches Alma to shoot an arrow at her, and asks her to feel her relationship with the arrow as if it were a part of her, so that Alma can shoot the arrow at moving targets. He makes her practice this technique until she can take out 2 monsters with 1 arrow. Alma agrees to the challenge and takes a route to the tunnels to run into monsters by herself. Matias calls her and tells her that the stones you find after you get rid of the monsters must be collected. Matias goes the other way with Lori to teach her the art of sword fighting. In the middle of the road, he casts a simple spell to destroy the barrier, grabs a brick that fell and tells her, "This is raw Demas metal, and we need to smash it to make weapons out of the Demas." Lori thinks that Demas can't be destroyed, but Matias surprises her with the fact that it can be used for so many things. That's why they have to take most of it and make weapons out of it. To do this, they use a raw magical power to spin the metal, a water spell to turn it back into a crystal, a shattering spell to turn the crystals into powder, and a magnet spell to collect the usable parts of the Demas. Lori is able to do the spells and succeeds in her first attempt to extract the Demas, and Matias teaches her how to make weapons out of them. Alma is able to hit 3 monsters with 1 arrow and comes back to meet them, only to find that Lori has learned to enchant the sword, and hits the monster with the sword and destroys it. The 3 of them go on their way to defeat the monsters, and Matias's necklace increases their strength and allows them to defeat any monster that stands in front of them. But on the 10th level, they are surprised by a huge dog standing in front of them, and Matias warns them about it because it's fiercer than all the monsters they've beaten along the way. Matias thinks to intervene and help them, but Alma is able to shoot 2 arrows at the beast from different directions, and Lori is able to distract the beast to give Alma a chance to hit it, and they work together as a team. Matias tells them that it will take time until they find another monster to fight, so they have to set up a camp where they can stay until a new monster appears. He teaches them how to make a camp, and the way he does it is by fusing a magical stone with his magical power and turning it into a camp that protects them from monsters. But Matias leaves them in the camp and continues to work his way through the next level to find the adamantite that will help him build the barrier. Alma is surprised that Matias is going down to the 25th level, so she tells him that the deepest level they've ever gone to is the 23rd, and the only ones to reach that level were the legendary group of 30 men under the protection of the sorcerer, Gaius. Matias is able to descend to the far reaches of the level and reach the bosses, who are very powerful and always finish off anyone who enters the tunnels. But Matias can take out all the monsters that stand in front of him until he reaches the biggest monster, a snake-like creature. The snake attacks him with great force, its venom makes the ground shake when it touches it, and the smoke from it pollutes the air over time. But this will be the first real challenge for Matias since he took the 4th mark in the new world. Matias hits the snake with a solid blow, which is enough to make the snake reckon Matias is a serious opponent and a real threat. Matias strikes at the snake snake, but it doesn't affect the snake, so he breaks a magic stone to create a veil in the air that increases the power of magic and gathers all the power in his sword. With one blow, he attacks the snake, destroys it and causes an earthquake in the whole city. At the same time, Erhard's friend asks him if he feels the earthquake, but Erhard says, of course not, no human being is strong enough to cause an earthquake. Matias gets rid of the monster and goes back to Alma and Luri, telling them that he got rid of a big monster and filled his safe. They don't realize the size of the snake, so they scream when they see it and can't understand how Matias was able to get rid of it on his own. After selling their loot from the tunnel at the Adventurers Guild, they realize that everyone is staring at them. Lori asks the clerk there why, and she says that most of the students at the new academy are now monster hunters and are much more advanced than the first, so they've become very attractive to everyone, especially the junior high school students. Of course, this is due to the training that Matias provides, which increases the level and strength of the students all the time. The employee asks, "How can I help you?" and Alma says, "We have Demas tools to sell," which is strange to the employee because Demas are not allowed for many people to earn them unless they have a royal order and a very strong level of power. What's even stranger to the employee is that Matias, who has the sign of failure, is able to earn and sell the Demas. Suddenly he opens a magical portal and takes out a huge snake and asks the clerk, "How much is this snake worth?" Of course, the employee is terrified and faints at the look of the snake and can't believe that Matias was able to get rid of it on his own. But what the employee doesn't understand is the storage spell in which the snake was stored, and she says that she has heard about the spell many times but she never imagined it was real. This was strange to Luri and Alma until they saw it with Matias. It's not just the snake that Matias can store, but also a large magical stone that he gained after he got rid of the snake. But for Matias, it's not big enough and he tells them that he's gained bigger stones before, especially since he needs a much bigger stone to make the barrier. The employee prices Matias's items and gives him 750 gold coins, which is a very large sum of money. Matias divides the money evenly, giving Alma 250 and Luri 250, and he takes the other 250. But Alma says, "You were able to collect the loot on your own, so you should take all the gold on your own." This comes as a surprise to Matias because he has never worked with a team before and has always worked on his own. Suddenly Matias says, "We have to go back to the academy right away." They ask him why, and he says there's a magical aura walking towards the second academy, which means 2 demons are going to attack it right now. We see the demon Ashriel and his companion heading towards the academy to avenge the devil's death, but they enter the academy, underestimating the humans and acting like they are going to get rid of Matias easily and walk away. He tells Lori and Alma that they have a demon that is stronger than devils and a demon that is weaker, and he will take the strong one and let them play with the weak one. The two of them are terrified and ask him how they can face a demon, but Matias assures them that their current level can face demons. The demons prepare to cast a spell from the air before they attack, but suddenly Matias attacks with a preemptive strike, but Ashriel is able to block it. Even though they are not powerful, they are still demons and have more power than humans, so Mathi needs more support. Ashriel hits him with the power of fire, and since his magic is low, he uses their blows to protect himself and reverses the blow back to Ashriel's side. But he still needs a stronger strategy to fight them, so he pretends to run away, but the demons run after him and get close to Alma. So Alma hits the demon Dishriel with a magical arrow that weakens his strength and slows him down. Dishriel orders him to deal with the girls, and Matias follows him, and Matias's initial mission is successful and he is able to separate them from each other. The demon casts a spell that is too big for Matias to reverse, but he exploits her weakness and throws a spell at her to break it. He charges at Akril and gives him a direct hit with his sword, but it doesn't kill him. Akril tries to hit him with the sword a few times but can't touch him, and Akril is surprised to find that Matias is a strong swordsman and hits him in the back. Ashriel goes high in the air and comes down quickly on Matias, but Matias hit him on the way down. Ashriel gets mad and says, "You must be a monster, not a human," but Matias charges at him and before he can get close, he realizes that the demon has a hidden casting spell and they are fighting each other with a sword and he can't get rid of it. The two of them continue a fierce duel with swords until Ashriel realizes that he can't beat him, but his pride won't let him admit defeat, so he says to Matias, "I'll let you escape Almirati and next time your death will be at my hands." Suddenly Matias surrounds him with a spell that stops all his magic, and we know that Matias used all the magic energy that came out of Ashriel to create the spell, and Ashriel falls to the ground and can't get up. Matias then watches as Alma and Lori fight the demon and use the tricks they learnt from Matias. And Matias goes to help them kill the next demon. The devil threatens him that if he unites with Ashriel, they can get rid of them, but he is surprised that Ashriel has fallen among the people. Matias does a light spell and the demon can't stand it and puts his hand against his face. The demon tries to escape, but Matias lets Alma throw an arrow at him, which cuts off his wing, and attacks him with a sword, which knocks his head off. They fall to the ground and Matias promises that he will teach them the flying spell soon, so he takes them and walks away before people ask them how they did it. Once again, Matias and the manager go to meet the king, but this time they take Alma and Lori with them. The king offers him a second time to make a wish and fulfill it, and Matias asks him for more diamonds. The king asks Alma and Lori, "What do you want?" Alma says she wants a lot of money, and Lori says she wants money too. The king laughs and tells his assistants to give them what they asked for. Matias notices the mark on his hand, stands up, asks the king's permission, and addresses one of the king's guards and says, "Show your true colors." He tells them that the demons are watching us from another place and see what we are doing right now, but the demon remains silent and Matias strikes him with a lightning bolt that makes him scream. He asks if the king can recognize the voice, and the king says it's the voice of Erhardt, the leader of the Wizards Guild who disappeared. And we know that Erhardt had been spying on the king's plans all along, but Matthias's blow hit him without killing him. Matthias asks him if there's anything special he knows about the area, because Matthias felt a connection to the area when he destroyed Erhardt's magical interface. The king realizes that this is the village of the demons, and concludes that the demons have been hiding in the ruins ever since. Matthias offers to visit the village and attack the demons, but Luri says it's far away and it will take at least 6 months to get there. The journey begins and Matthias walks towards the village of demons, taking Lori and Alma with him. They find a dragon named Iris, a dark dragon that Matthias uses for long journeys. As Matthias gets close to Iris, he wakes up and says, "You're intruding on my territory and I won't let you in. But I'll let you go back in peace or I'll kill you if you take one more step." Matthias doesn't care and comes closer to him and says, "You don't remember me until now." The dragon does a spell and Matthias can easily hit it. Matthias thinks to the dragon himself and says, "I am Gaius, the one who confronted you before in the other world, and now this is his new form in the world." Matthias assures him that he is not coming to harm him, but wants to get him on his back to the demon village in order to get rid of them. The dragon agrees, but tells Matthias that his wing was severed, and tells him that after he died in the old world, a magical reactor exploded in the human kingdom. The explosion caused other magical reactors to explode, and the humans were sent back to the Stone Age. But Matthias uses the fourth mark to repair the dragon's wing and says, "You can fly again, just like before." Alma and Lori can't believe they're riding on the back of a dragon and can even talk to it. Lori talks to Alma and tells her that the things they have heard about in legends, especially with the sage Gaius and the sage Ruder, and they don't know that Gaius is Matthias and Ruder is his friend. Matthias orders the dragon to fly at 500 kilometers per hour and never goes faster than that so that his wings don't get cut off. Matthias arrives at the demon village, and the demon guarding the watchtower is surprised to find Matthias flying at him and splitting him in half. He senses the same magical signal coming from the village that he felt when he was in the palace. He realizes that there are 2 demons in the village. One of them is Erhardt, the leader of the Wizards Guild who escaped and can be defeated, and the other is a demon even more powerful than Archer, but Matthias has regained all his strength and can fight him. Suddenly he hears Alma and Lori screaming, and is surprised to find Iris coming down near him, and as he comes down, she apologizes that she hasn't been flying for a long time ago and forgot how to land. He checks on Alma and Lori and finds them dazed and unable to stand up but not injured. He then tells them the plan and performs a telepathy spell that allows them to talk to each other without sound, which will help them in combat and will not let the enemy know their plans. Matthias gives them a spell to cast magic and asks Lori to keep it. When they arrive at the palace, they are surprised to find it empty, but Matthias informs them that the demons have activated the invisibility spell so that no one can see them. Lori uses the spell she got from Matthias and is able to see the demon in the corner of the room, but the other demon is invisible. Matthias casts a spell that stops his invisibility spell, and when the demon appears, Alma points her arrow at it. They notice that the demon doesn't move, so they suspect it almost doesn't know they're seeing it. Lori hits him with the arrow and he dodges it first, but the arrow goes around the back of his head and into the center of his brain. But even though the demon was using a powerful cloaking spell, the devil laughs and says, "You must not be the real Matthias, because the real Matthias is in the castle and there is no way he can come to the village in one day." He attacks him and Matthias meets him with a sword and orders Alma to hit him with arrows. The devil laughs at them because the arrows don't affect him and he tries to hit Matthias, but Matthias can't touch him because he's too fast and Matthias doesn't try to hit him back. Suddenly the devil feels that his body is weakened and unable to move because of the magic in the arrows, and the devil persists to not lose the battle and still thinks that this is not the real Matias. He uses a spell called misfortune, and doubles his size and turns into a very large demon, and this is his last attempt to put all his magical energy before he dies. The demon tries to catch them only to find that they have disappeared from his hands, and Matias laughs at him and says, "You believe that we are afraid of them and will run away? It's just a disguise spell you are using, trying to give us the illusion of your huge size, but in reality you are just as weak." Alma hits him with an arrow in the center of his brain and takes him out. Alma and Lori finish the mission, after they have defeated Erhardt, and have to go out and wait with Iris until Matias gets rid of the other demon and lets them go. He goes outside the palace and blows the first magic stone that gathers the magical power of the ocean, then blows the second magic stone that gathers a large number of monsters, and finally blows the third magic stone to force any demon in the air to appear in its true form. The demon appears in its true form, and they don't expect Matias to recognize its true form, and we know that Erhardt called Matias a monster from what he had heard about him. But Matias says, "I'm not a monster, and you're forcing me to use forced methods to get rid of you." The demon challenges him and tells him to prepare to die because his level is different from Erhardt's, and Matias laughs at him and says, "Try to beat me if you know how." The devil starts attacking Matias, who is feeling his pulse and receiving all his blows to find out his level of strength to finish the fight. Suddenly the devil hits him with a spell that cuts off his arm and asks him, "Where is the confidence you had all those years ago?" The devil approaches him and says, "Choose a way to die." Suddenly we know that he used a healing spell before he entered the battle, and through the wound he was able to fully analyze the demon's strength, and now he knows all the weaknesses he can attack him from. Despite all the demon's attempts to injure Matias again, he cannot touch him or scratch any part of his body. He laughs and says, "I let you cut my hand at my whim, but you have no choice but to surrender to death." The demon suspects that he used the same poison that he used on Erhardt. He activates the hyper magic circle, which is similar to the bad luck spell used by Erhardt, but more sophisticated, so he can't kill him as easily as Erhardt. But Matias uses a spell that negates the demon's spell, and he returns to his normal size after being so huge. To the surprise of the demon, since no one has ever been able to cancel the spell before, he decides to use a spell that turns him into a fog so that Matias can't see him. Even though the spell can only be used by the demon, Matias can use it as a countermeasure, because he knew all of the demon's spells when he let it cut his arm off. The devil is an open book for Matias, and the spell that Matias casts on him, which the devil thought was poison, begins to work, and the spell can reduce his power and control his magic. The spell causes his magic to increase and amplify until it explodes and destroys him. He blows up the fourth magic stone, which increases the power of magic in the ocean, and this is the fatal blow that ends the demon's life and causes him to explode and make a big hole in the ground, and in the middle of the hole appears a dragon's vein pillar. It has powerful magic circles running through it, and Matias uses the pillar by planting it in the ground and using the power of the magic that comes out of it. From the spell on the pole, Matias knew that the demons were preparing to gather more than 5,000 level 10 monsters to attack the city. But after Matias blew up the demon, the monster's production site was 10 kilometers away from the capital, and even though it was still close, Matias could use the power of the other academy's students to fight against them. After they return to the village, Matias decides to turn Iris into a human form, using her strength and keeping her as a means of transport at all times. Matias tells the headmaster what happened and offers to take Iris into the academy. The principal says, "I'll treat her like any other student," and she has to take the entrance test and score 47 out of 50, which is a very high score. But Matias trusts her and knows she can do it. Iris's human form is the first time she's tried it, so he's afraid she'll go back to the Dragon Authority and destroy the entire academy without realizing it. Lori asks him why he didn't tell the principal about the dragon's vein pole and the monsters that will attack the city, and he tells her that Iris needs to finish her first exam so she doesn't panic in the city for nothing. The next day, Iris takes the writing test and she's behaving strangely as a dragon and is still getting used to life as a human being. Then comes the practical skills test, where she is tested by the cavalry captain that Matias defeated on the first day. He says to Matias, "If you recommend her, she should be strong and show us her skills." But Gil attacks her and the sword flies out of her hand. She turns her back on him and goes to get the sword, which is a mistake no one should make in battle, so he attacks her to defeat her. But Iris says, "I'll get the sword," and she grabs his sword with both hands without getting it. Iris says, "Let me get the sword," and she grabs the sword in her hands without any difficulty and asks Matias if she has to use the sword to defeat him or can she just hit him without a sword. Iris throws the sword and it flies through the air and crashes into the tower, her sword gets bent and the manager is surprised by her strength and doesn't believe she is an ordinary girl. The next test is archery. Iris realizes that the targets are small, so she activates her magic and shoots back at Matias, the principal, Lori and Alma. But Matias catches up with them and does a protection spell before the magic explodes and kills them. She tries her luck again, but this time makes a bigger explosion in the air, so she decides to use Matias's spell and throws the spell to blow up the whole place. She goes back to the boss and says, "I was able to hit all the targets, but I accidentally blew up the place." This is Iris's last successful test and she is accepted into the academy and becomes a student. After one day, Matias and the principal come down to check on the work and see if the students can make enough bricks to make the barrier. Matias learns from the principal that the number of students with the glory mark who can make bricks is low, so the production is low. Also, most of the students with the mark of glory are in the first academy, and understanding between the first and second academy is always difficult, and they have never agreed on anything, and if they ask for their help, it will be difficult and most likely they will not agree. But since the current circumstances are critical and there is no room for competition and animosity, the headmaster asks the king to intervene and convince the first academy to help the second academy. The king orders the headmaster of the first academy to go and meet the headmaster of the second academy and they come to an understanding, and the headmaster of the first academy is mad because he is supposed to stay in his place and the headmaster of the second academy to go to him, not the other way around. But the head of the second academy says that it's the king's orders, and the situation we're in doesn't allow for enmity because we need to create a barrier to keep the demons out. The headmaster of the other academy asks him to give him the students with the mark of glory to help them. But the head of the first academy refuses because he can't put his hand in the hands of a weak academy. He tells the principal of the second academy that he was able to win him in the last competition, and he says, that's because demons interfered in the competition. The headmaster of the first academy is embarrassed when the headmaster of the second academy says that the demons interfered on your side. Matias offers to start the competition again, but the competition will be between human beings and each other, and the one who loses will have to do what the winner wants. Of course, the headmaster of the first academy agrees, but only on the condition that Matias does not participate, and before the headmaster of the second academy responds, Matias agrees. The competition will be repeated 2 days later at the same place as last time. 2 days later the competition is organized, and the principal of the second academy notices that the students of the first academy have prepared with all the energy they have to make amends for what happened last time. Matias's plan is to send Iris away if he senses danger, but what he sees is that there are no demons among the students, so there is no reason for Iris to participate. The headmaster of the academy tells them that they have the best students in the academy and no matter what they do, they can't beat them. On the other hand, the first academy only accepts 5 students to compete. The referee signals the start and the students of the second academy, with minimal effort, beat all the students of the first academy. The principal is mad and can't believe that his students can be beaten so easily. The referee declares the second academy the winner, and Matias tells the manager, 5 was too many for you, we should have had fewer. But the principal refuses to acknowledge the result and accuses the students of being monsters, so Matias asks him how can I prove otherwise. He points his finger at Iris and says, let her come down and compete and see how she's doing. Iris says, I don't have a weapon, but Matias gives her a sword, which makes the director of the first academy reassure that it is a weak, non-magical sword with no power to help her. The first time Iris grabs the sword, it feels like plastic in her hand. Suddenly the headmaster of the second academy yells, the king ordered us to teach students silent magic, and you are still teaching them magic with their tongue, to which the headmaster replies, this is our customs and traditions, and I will not change them even if the king orders us to do so. Before he can justify his words, the king orders his guards to arrest him. The king gives orders to the students of the first academy and tells them, from here on, you will work with the students of the second academy and learn silent magic. After the competition, Matias, Lori, Alma and Iris go to get a magic stone from the tunnel that is 60 centimeters long, while the students of the first academy are working and making demons. We know that Iris is a dragon, so she has a magic stone that is 80 centimeters long, but Matias assures them that he will not get rid of Iris and take the stone, he will summon monsters and get rid of them. At level 17, it's the first time Alma and Lori have reached a level with such power, and Iris surprises them that Matias has reached level 654 in the ancient world. Matias asks Lori to create a magic circle and then asks Iris to summon a monster from the circle, but quietly. Since Iris doesn't know how to control her power, she summons a monster larger than the size of the place, and they run away before it collapses on them. As they run, Matias says to Iris, "I told you to summon the monster slowly," and Iris says, "When you summoned a monster slowly, you brought down 3 mountains, so you won't come down on me." They see a huge red dragon walking towards them, so Iris attacks it, but the dragon blocked the blow with ease. Matias gets the idea to distract him, and Iris teases him and says, "You're a lizard, not a dragon," which is the most irritating thing could ever say to a dragon. The dragon still run after Iris to catch her. While Lori works her magic on the arrows, Alma hits him with many arrows, and Matias makes many magic circles in the place to increase the effect of the arrows on the dragon. But the dragon's skin is too dry for small arrows, and the poisons don't affect them, so Matias thinks to return Iris to her dragon form and fight, but that will take time. He decides to let Iris provoke him and distract him so that he can hit her with his strongest power, and he takes that power and hits him with an explosive force. And that's exactly what happens. The dragon explodes, and they get the magic stone they wanted. Matias offers Iris to join their team, and she agrees and joins them. The next day, Matias breaks the training ground so that Iris can get used to her human form and be able to move her legs quickly. Alma and Iris start training, and Iris has to try to escape and Alma has to try to hit her with a sword. On the other hand, Lori is given the task of making a weapon, and Matias gives her the task of making a personalized sword for him. He teaches her how to make a sword from 8 spells to give it a unique power. After Matias's sword is finished, she starts making another sword for herself. When it's time to test the weapon, Lori starts with her sword and cuts through the rock, then Alma with her arrow and blows up the wall, and Iris with her spear and destroys half the place. Matias talks to himself and says that after the silent magic returns to the kingdom, he will make them a barrier to protect them from demons, and trains them in many skills. Then he will have no reason to continue in school. And if everything goes the way he wants it to, he'll leave the academy and walk away. The day comes when the academy starts building the barrier that will protect them from the demons around the kingdom. The principal gives a speech to the students, informing them that the work will start from today, and Matias is the leader of the students who will follow them as they work, as he is the first idea and the most powerful person in the academy. He encourages the students to put all their energy into building the barrier, and tells them that you are the protective armor of the kingdom because you are the only ones who learn silent spells, and you are the most powerful people in the whole kingdom. The work begins, and everyone is immersed in the task at hand, putting their best energy into it. Lori tells Matias that magic detectors 25 and 26 have sensed strange activity, and he tells her that it must be demons, and that they might have figured out our plan. But even if they know the plan, we can't easily detect them, so it's very likely that the spell the magic detectors spotted is a demonic transport spell called the Magical Road. Matias assigns them the task of getting rid of it, so they run through the forest until they reach the magic road of the demons. They take Matias's word that when the gap gets bigger, it means the demons are attacking, so they have to close it quickly before the demons attack. They do what Matias told them to do to close the gap, and the way to do it is for Lori to use the magic arrows she does for Alma. But Matias lets her make the decision on her own, telling her, "I taught you most of the things you need to know, but it's time for you to rely on yourself." Lori comes up with an idea to do a new spell on the magic arrows, and they realize that the hole is getting bigger and a demon is coming out of it. Alma goes after it and hits it with an arrow to get rid of it. Another demon comes out, but the arrow doesn't affect it, and before she can hit it with another arrow, Lori goes after it and splits it in half with her sword. The gap closes, and Lori and Alma's mission is successful. Suddenly they recognize a second, larger gap in the capital and rush to catch up with it. The third girl with them realizes how powerful they are and sits on the ground, not believing that Matias taught them until they were so powerful. They go back to Matias to inform him of the new time gap in the capital, but Matias, expecting this to happen, tells them that it's an advanced form of magic and that they sacrifice a demon in exchange for enlarging the road and allowing it to reach great distances. But since demons don't have the courage to sacrifice themselves, they must have sacrificed the weakest one in order to do it. Matias predicts that the road will appear above the second academy and the barrier will take longer to build, so Lori and Alma will have to spend more time delaying the demons coming out of the magical hole until the barrier is finished. Matias notices that Lori and Alma have become more confident, and the battle has made them more confident, and it shows in the way they speak. Iris arrives with 40 crates of mithril, which they will need to build the barrier. Alma and Lori arrive in the courtyard of the other academy and meet the principal, who tells them that Matias is going to give them a lot of magic stones to make magic circles. The time gap appears and a huge demon emerges. The demon is confident and threatens the students that if they try to fight him, he will finish them off in seconds. He makes a big spell and throws it at the academy, and Lori doesn't realize that the spell is blocked and the academy doesn't get anything because of all the smoke. But the smoke clears and the demon finds the students standing still, unaffected, and the principal orders the students to strike with the fire, but the range is too short to reach the demon. Alma hits him with an arrow, but its speed is too slow to reach him and the demon is able to catch the arrow and break it. The demon attacks with a bigger spell than before, and the students block the spell with more effort, trying to buy time until Lori makes a stronger magic sword to get rid of the demon. But Lori fails to make the sword, and although she was able to make it before when Matias was with her, she can't make it now by herself. She looks at her colleagues and realizes that if she fails again, the devil will get rid of them, so she decides not to disappoint Matias's trust in her and uses her magic to the fullest, making a very powerful magic sword and giving it to Alma. Alma throws the sword at the demon, but unfortunately the demon is able to dodge it, so Alma moves it with her magic and spins it around and enters the demon's back to finish it off. Suddenly a second demon appears and tells them, "You were able to defeat the demon Belmas because he was alone, but we are many demons and you won't be able to defeat us." The demons gather their strength together and attack the academy with great force, and the students are unable to stop them. The demons compete with each other to see who can kill the most people. At first, Lori tries to stop her with her arrow to delay them until Matias arrives, but Alma says, "We have to delay them and buy time until Matias gets here." Lori activates her magic and turns Alma's arrows into powerful magical arrows so that anyone who takes an arrow will die. The demons prepare to commit a massacre, but suddenly Matias appears from behind them and eliminates the demon, telling them that the massacre will be done by me. The demon realizes that the aura around Matias is not human and asks him if he killed Elias. But Matias doesn't answer and proceeds to beat them up until they're all gone with minimal effort. He thanks Lori for making him the sword and Alma for delaying the demons until he arrived. They thank him for saving the lives of all the students. Matias informs them that the hole for the barrier has been cleared and Iris and the other students are still working on it. When Matias goes to check on the work, he finds that they have finished everything, and the only thing left is the magic stone he has with him to make the barrier. Matias places the stone and a very powerful light comes out from the center of the barrier and surrounds the whole city, and it has great protection from demons that cannot penetrate it. Lori says that the mission is finally complete and she senses a strong magical energy coming from the barrier, but Iris surprises her that the energy is coming from the monsters in the dragon's vein and the monsters have the spell that the demons made to summon them. He emphasizes that the power of the monsters and the power of the demons that they summoned entered the dragon's vein and made the barrier stronger and stronger. So the demons mobilize more monsters to try and break through the barrier. The principal and the students get ready to fight the monsters with all their might, and the monsters attack them in large numbers. Matias lays traps and explosives on the road, and the students are much better at beating up the monsters. Matias, Lori, and Alma are watching them from the castle, watching the battle unfold. Suddenly, the headmaster orders his students to retreat, but Matias arrives with Lori, Alma, and Iris and supports them so they don't retreat. Iris is surprised when Matias throws her at one of the monsters and kills it, and the second monster is hit by Alma's magic arrow and kills it and the third monster. He realizes that fighting in a team is much stronger and better than fighting alone, so he saves his energy for the stronger monsters that only he can defeat. He comes across a very powerful monster called the Void Eater, who swallows all the monsters around him and uses their power to transform into something much more terrifying and powerful. It's the first time Matias has dealt with this monster, and Alma says, "We have to catch it before it gets too big and swallows all the monsters around it." But Matias says, "No, we won't let it go until it swallows all the monsters in the area and then they'll get rid of it all at once to save time." Iris realizes he's trying to swallow her as well because she's a dragon, but Matias says we have to help him swallow all the monsters and get rid of him quickly. He hands Lori a magic paper and asks her to make it into a magic stone and throw it at the monster. Matias throws more magic cards at it to make it form in a way that he can attack it. The monster becomes a huge and terrifying looking beast after it gathers all the power of the monsters in the area. Although Matias's magical power is reduced, he has a memory that allows him to know how to attack monsters even when he is weak. He orders Iris to shoot the monster in the leg. Lori and Alma don't stop him with arrows, and he attacks it with a sword. Matias realizes that the best way to defeat a monster of this size is to make it even more nervous. He prefers to hit him in non-lethal places such as his legs and eyes, but notices that his legs regenerate after being nearly cut off. But Matias continues to attack him with magic stones, letting the blows hit him all over his body until the monster falls to the ground. He flies up in the air and lands a devastating blow that snaps its neck. But Matias realizes that the monster's composition is strange and the dragon's vein needs more Dyumis, which is not available in the city, so he decides to go out into the kingdom, find Dyumis, and come back. But the truth is that Matias wants to leave after completing his mission in the kingdom. The headmaster understands what's going on in Matias's head without him saying it, so he offers to stay with them on a special scholarship, because his presence in their midst will help the school develop further. When he stays with them, the academy and the kingdom will intervene on his behalf and solve it, so that if Matias leaves the academy to go around the demons, he can come back at any time at his leisure. Alma, Lori, and Iris are asked to stay at the academy on a special contract, so they can travel with Matias, learn from him, and tour together. The next day the four of them get out and the principal and students come out to say goodbye, and the principal promises them that the academy will always be open to them and that they can come back anytime. Matias and his team begin their journey, and they meet a child riding in a carriage with his father who asks them if they are adventurous, and Matias says they are going to the kingdom of Deus Melchia to complete a mission, and Lori learns that unlike their tunnel, Deus Melchia's tunnel is huge and has hundreds of levels. Because of this, an entire city has been built over the tunnel, and Matias says that he has never seen anything like this before, and he doesn't understand how people can live over a tunnel that is so dangerous. To reach Deus Melchia, they need more than a day on the road, but Matias says they can get there in 1 day and save time. This worries Lori, because if they get there in 1 day, it means they have to go through the Chicker Forest, which is full of monsters, and rumor has it that there is a smart monsters, unlike the stupid monsters. But that doesn't scare Matias. On the contrary, it makes him curious and makes him insist on traveling the entire route in 1 day. After they enter the forest, Lori shows signs of fear of what might happen to them, and after a long walk, they sit down to rest and have lunch. Matias goes out to hunt for something to eat, but as he runs through the forest, he notices that the monsters have strong magical energy, and they run in an orderly fashion, not randomly like the monsters he's used to. He realizes that there is a monster that controls them and makes them move around the forest at his whim, and that it must be the intelligent monster that Lori said he was. Lori and Alma hear a loud thud and think that the monster has finished Matias off, but they are surprised to find that the monster has been finished off. And Matias comes back to them with the monster in his hand, saying that he expected something much bigger and is disappointed that the monster is so weak. Then Matias brings them another monster to eat, and the biggest surprise for Alma and Lori is that certain monsters can be eaten. Lori starts a fire, and Iris brings plants from the forest to boil with the food. It's not long before the food is finished, and Lori and Alma love the taste of the monsters, while Iris eats a lot because the dragons need more food to get full. After they finish eating, Matias and his team get ready to continue their mission, especially since the monsters are afraid to approach them because of Iris' power, and after they got rid of the smart monster, the monsters will be even more afraid of them. Before the sun goes down, they reach the city of Deus Melchia, which is located in the middle of the mountains. When they enter the city, they are surprised to find that it is random and not very organized, and most of the people are lying in the streets. Lori notices that the magical pillar of light in the city has no magical stones, which means that it is connected to the dragon's vein directly, but the shopkeeper next to them calls out to them, telling them to stay away from the pillar because it exploded and 10 people died in the same place where they were before. When the pole explodes, Lori gets mad at the shopkeeper and says, "Why are you making things so dangerous and threatening your lives?" The shopkeeper tells her to keep her voice down, because all they are doing is following the orders of the sage, and they have no choice but to do what they have to do. He tells them that they used to use magic stones, but the sage said that magic stones are the most important and expensive thing they export, so he forbade anyone in the city to use them for any reason whatsoever. Matias asks him if the sage is the reason for the low population in the city, and the salesman says that a big monster appeared on the 10th level of the Deus tunnel. Most of the adventurers I hired to fight it were either strong and experienced or weak and inexperienced, and the monster got rid of them all. Matias gets a general idea of the state of the country, buys an apple from the man, and continues on his way to the city. Matias talks to his team and explains that when you put people with little experience together with people with a lot of experience, they will not know how to fight, not to mention the weapons they are using are of poor quality. That's why Matias decides to go to the syndicate and get a permit that allows him to go down the Deus tunnel, the same words written on the sign on the street. He goes to the syndicate and tells the clerk that he needs 4 licenses to go down the tunnel, but the clerk says, "You're too young to do that, especially since the licenses come directly from the sage, and before he allows you to take the license, you have to listen to what he tells you, and he makes you hunt monsters and rotate them on the Demas, which can cause serious injuries as you can see, and the employee consults him about the adventurers and finds that most of them are broken and tired. But this motivates Matias and his team to go on the adventure, so he asks her to start the licensing process. Suddenly, a woman comes in screaming that there are a lot of victims coming from the Demas tunnel, and if anyone knows how to do a healing spell, please go with her. The only one who responds is Matias, who says, I know the healing spell and I'm coming with you. He enters the Guild of Elders and finds many people sleeping on the floor, not having enough bandages to stop their wounds from bleeding. He is surprised that the whole country has only one healer, but the employee surprises him that the city used to have many healers, but the sage kicked them out and said they were a waste of money. Matias quickly takes off his jacket and performs a spell that identifies the level of danger of the patient's wounds. He puts a number in front of each patient, and the number represents the level of severity of the patient's condition. He takes the most difficult patients and the rest of the patients he distributes to his team, so that he follows the most serious cases first and gradually goes down to the less serious ones. Before Matias treats the most serious case, Dr. of the guild stops him and says that these cases are dangerous and cannot be dealt with by small children, and that they must be sorted in order of severity before he starts treating them. He says, shut up and learn what I'm going to do, and performs healing magic that seals the bleeding veins to stop the bleeding, treats the organs that have been damaged, and then closes the wound while the patient heals. He orders the doctor to treat the cases in the order they are given and not acts with his brain because the cases will die. The doctor is convinced by his words, and distributes his team to the rest of the cases, and each one takes a patient and enters the next one until they save all the patients in record time. After they are done, the doctor thanks him and asks him if he has worked as a healer before, but Matias says, I only used the healing spell once, and it was all thanks to the efforts of the whole team together. Matias asks him about the sage who used to rule the city and wants to know why he was replaced by another corrupt sage. The doctor explains to him that it happened suddenly and without warning. They heard that he died suddenly in his sleep and no one had any idea how he died, except that they woke up the day they heard that he died. We know that the Demas tunnels have always been dangerous even in the old world, and the idea of someone building a city on top of them is a strange thing that has never happened, but it can only happen with demonic planning, so Matias expects that demons killed the last sage, and it is highly likely that the current sage is a demon rather than a human being. At the end of the day, Matias and his team stay at a hotel, and Matias sent a fake letter to the manager to deliver it to the king, and the real letter is hidden in the box in which it was sent, so that if it falls into the wrong hands, no one will discover it. Even though Matias could go and deliver the letter himself, he thinks he can see the monster in the tunnels of Demas, and sends the letter by magic. The next day, Matias and his team go to the huge gate of the Demas tunnel, but even though the gate is made of iron, it is too weak for Iris to open it easily. Matias tells them to be prepared as they enter the tunnel and anticipate anything that might happen to them. An hour later, Matias and his team return to the Adventurers Guild with the monster, telling them that it's a weak monster and that they don't need any power to defeat it. The employee asks him how he was able to get rid of him so easily, but Matias gives credit to his team, telling her that I didn't interfere and they did it on their own. The employee says that the Hakim must see the monster himself, otherwise I can't pay you anything until the Hakim approves it. The employee writes a letter to the sage, and Matias sees it without thinking about it. The employee writes to the sage that Iris, Lori, and Alma look like monsters and are very powerful, but Matias is too much of a healer to join them in battle. They go to dinner and talk about the strength of their team. Lori is the one who does the magic and Alma is the one who shoots the arrows, and after paralyzing the opponent, they hold him until Iris attacks him with one blow to finish him off. After dinner, Matias notices that the wise man has two people watching them, but he pretends not to see them, and realizes that this is a good opportunity to reveal the true nature of the wise man. He uses his brain and walks down side roads, talks to his team telepathically so no one can hear them, and tells them that there are people walking behind them following the wise man. That's why they do the invisibility spell and see the wise man's men wrapped around themselves and don't know how they disappeared. Suddenly Matias and his companions appear behind them and ask them where their hotel is. The leader says that their hotel is in the direction ahead, and Matias laughs and says, "How did you know our hotel without me telling you its name?" One of them grabs Matias and threatens him with a knife, orders the rest of the team to turn themselves in, and tells them that he knows Matias is the weakest one because he is the healer, as they learnt from the employee's letter. Matias asks Iris to beat them without weapons, and the wise man laugh, but are surprised when Iris, Lori, and Alma beat them down and beat them all easily. Matias casts a tracking spell on them to find out where the wise man is, and a demon detection spell to find out if they've contracted with demons or not. The next day, Matias and his team go to a secret location to meet the king's messenger, who asks Matias to appear from the center of the darkness. The messenger introduces himself and says, "My name is Ike," and informs him that the king has ordered the arrest of the wise man Dukul as the ruler of the city and a corrupt man. If you want to arrest him yourself, you are allowed to do so under Ike's supervision. Matias replies that he knows where the sage is after tracking down his men, and that he is currently sitting in a palace on the outskirts of the city. Ike suggests to him to send cavalry to support him because the palace is very fortified. But Matias says, "No need, I can take care of it with my team." They go to the palace, and Ike realizes that there is something strange and the door is locked during the day. There are no guards around the place, and the palace looks abandoned. But Matias senses the soldiers in the palace and tells them that our plan has been exposed, and the wise man is concentrating all his soldiers in the palace to protect himself. Since they've already made their plans, we have to break into the palace through the front gate and go in to teach them manners. When the team enters, they find a large number of the sage's soldiers, and the soldiers mock them because there are only 5 of them and they are many more, and throw many magic spells at them. We see Lori's reaction after she evolves and becomes faster than before, blocking all the blows with a protection spell. Then it's Matias's turn, and he throws one spell at them, taking them all out. Ike now understands the king's words when he tells him not to make Matias nervous, because he is too strong and can be easily defeat them. They all stand at the top of the stairs, but Matias's signals say that no one is on the second floor and they don't know where the sage is in the palace. He does a magic spell that reveals hidden objects, walks down the corridor and finds a magical button behind the painting, and when he presses it, a portal opens and descends into an underground tunnel. The wise man asks his assistant if the men are gone, and the assistant replies that if they were gone, we would have heard their voices. But the wise man calculates a secret hiding place where he can escape even if they can't get rid of them. The wise man hears Matias's voice saying, "You have a secret hiding place and you think you can escape from it," and the wise man thinks he is one of his soldiers. He says, "You sold people to get rid of me and you don't even know what I look like," and the wise man is surprised to realize that he is not one of his soldiers. Suddenly Matias and his team are attacked by many soldiers, but he is able to finish them off with one blow. The wise man is surprised that Matias has so much power, and all this time he thought he was a healer who didn't know how to fight. Ike captures Matias, but threatens that if he is captured and given to the king, the city will be turned upside down. Ike then asks Matias if he will return with him to the capital to meet the king, and Matias says he will stay in the city for a while until he finds out how the wise man knew they would attack him before he got close to the palace. He shows them a partially burned letter saying that the king has ordered your arrest and has sent a messenger to carry out the mission and bring you back, and the letter has traces of magic on it, which means that there is a demon contracted with them. Matias suspects that the demon is working on the vein of the dragon in the city because its size is much larger than the one in the capital, and if it were to merge with a spell, it could destroy the whole world. Suddenly they feel a violent earthquake, and Matias tells them that demons are playing with the dragon's vein and have mobilized many monsters to fight them, which is what the wise man meant by the fact that the city will be overturned if they catch him. Matias's plan is to get the demons away from the dragon's vein as soon as possible, and the monsters have at least 2 hours to reach the city, and in that time they will be able to eliminate the demons and get rid of the monsters. They arrive at the dragon's vein after the demons are hidden behind it and realize that they have a demonic aura about them. Matias tells them, "You guys stay here, return the dragon's vein to its old state, and I'll go round to where the demons are and get rid of them." He does a spell to communicate with the dragon's veins, so he can talk to them from anywhere in the city quickly. Lori finds out where the problem with the dragon's vein is and starts to solve it, but Matias warns her that any mistake in the dragon's vein could destroy the entire city. After an hour of battling the monsters, Matias arrives at the demon's location, where he is working on the dragon vein control spell. He notices that the demon has fluctuations in his magical power. He suspects that he is communicating with someone else, and he does a listening spell to see what the demon is saying. He hears someone tell the demon that Matias is not the one trying to deal with the dragon's vein, but Lori is, and although her level is low, it's working. He orders him to get rid of Matias and then get rid of Lori, who is modifying the dragon's vein, but advises him not to underestimate Matias's power and to fight him with all his might. Matias realizes that there is a leader who is the one who moves the demon and gives him orders, and he has a great knowledge of the art of casting and dragon veins. Matias starts to attack, but the demon easily blocks the blow, and he thinks about underestimating him, but the boss says he's trying you out, but don't underestimate him. He realizes that the demon can use spells and tactics against his fourth mark, which is why the demon's power is greater than all the other demons he's faced before. The boss orders him to confront Matias from a distance and shoot him, because the fourth mark makes him strong in close encounters, and if he confronts him directly at close quarters, he will be eliminated. Matias analyzes what's happening and realizes that the demon boss is very powerful and knows the tactics of the fourth mark and how to deal with it, so he's curious about it. The demon tries to hit Matias in different ways, but he can't hit him once, so the boss orders him to go to the next step and set a trap for him. Matias asks Lori to do the 14 spells and break the trap that the devil has put in the dragon's vein. After the trap is disarmed, the demon is terrified and doesn't know what's going on, so Lori does the 17th spell and disrupts the connection between him and the boss. This means that the demon will have a direct confrontation with Matias without listening to his boss's orders. But the demon says, "I have a spell that can block all your attacks," so Matias increases his blows and says that the spell activates a second after each blow, so if he attacks him in a fraction of a second, he can break the spell and finish him off. Matias attacks him with the sword and breaks the spell, and the devil's communication with the boss is restored and the boss realizes what has happened. We know that the boss had heard a rumor that Matias was Gaius, but after seeing his abilities, he was convinced. The boss tells the demon, "If this is really Gaius standing in front of you, consider yourself dead." The demon performs a spell of misfortune, swells in size and strikes Matias with fire, but Matias is able to block all the blows, as his fourth mark and sword allow him to perform more than 4 spells at once. He hits the demon with a blow that severs its arm and then a blow that severs its head and finishes it off. All the monsters that were going to wreak havoc on the city disappear, thanks to Lori fixing the problem with the dragon's vein. Matias reassures his team, telling them that they only have one mission, and that's to find the boss who gave the instructions to the demon. Matias does a spell to locate him and tells Lori to get the dragon's veins working again. Matias is surprised that the boss has been listening in on all his communications with Lori and says, "You can't know where I am." The boss asks him if he knows who he is, and Matias realizes that the magic is coming from dozens of kilometers away, specifically from the village of Elena. But Matias feels it's a bait and doesn't believe the boss is in Elena. Matias tells him to prepare with his greatest strength so that he will know where he is one day and go to confront him, but the leader says, "When you know my location first, destroy the communication device in Elena." Matias realizes this time that Level is stronger than anything he's ever faced before, which makes him even more motivated to confront him and curious to get there as soon as possible. Afterwards, Matias stays up late discussing with his team how to reach the demon leader. Although the leader had cut off his communication with Elena, the transmission spell he used to call Matias had the leader's signal on it. Matias was able to record the signal in a magic stone, which seemed strange to Alma that someone could record a signal in a magic stone. Matias surprises her even more by telling her that there is a tool from thousands of years ago that allows you to track the enemy through a magic stone, not just pick up his signal. If they can get their hands on this device, they can locate the leader and send him on his way. "How do you know how to use a tool that's been around for thousands of years?" Lori asks Matias. He tries to hide his face so it doesn't look like he's not from this world. He says, "I learned it by accident," and changes the subject before telling them that he invented it. Luckily, Lori doesn't mind and asks him where the device is, and he shows her a map of the Rodinia Federation, and if they can get the king's help, they can get the bridge to the Federation faster. If they ask the director, he can help them, so they have to go back to the capital to ask the director and the king's opinion. The next day they return to the capital and go to the other academy, only to find that it has disappeared. They continue on their way until they see a sign saying that the new academy is under construction. The principal arrives to greet them, and Iris can't hold her tongue and says, "We've vanquished a very powerful demon in Demas City." The principal explains the renovations that are taking place at the new academy, making the walls stronger to withstand demon attacks. The students are currently taking their lessons at the first academy, while all the students are collaborating to build the walls. Then they enter the principal's office, where Matias tells the principal what happened, and informs him that a demon leader was giving orders to the demon he was fighting and that he obviously has a lot of experience. In order to get to him, they have to cross the borders of the Rodinia Federation. But even though the Rodinia Federation is a group of countries united together, there are evil countries that won't let them return. So Matias asks the king if he can help them, and the king considers writing a telegram to the king asking for his help, especially when it comes to demons, as the king will support them strongly to get rid of them. Matias, who likes to help with everything, tells the headmaster that he will help the students build the academy until the king approves the request. Under Matias's supervision, he tells them that if we use mithril columns, they'll be stronger than iron. Lori teaches them the magic of construction, and Iris helps them lift heavy weights and deliver them to the construction site. The king authorizes them to set the border and make a recommendation to the Redinian Federation. They can easily cross the border once the guards see the king's recommendation, but unfortunately the problem is that the area where the device is located is off-limits to anyone who enters it. That's because the magical signals there are very strong, and they're afraid of a magical disaster, which means they can't get close to the area. The only solution is for them to raise their adventuring rank, and they have to reach rank A in order to enter. In order to become an adventurer, they must first go to the Adventurers Guild in Redinia and take the training test. But Lori says it will cost us a lot of time, and we don't have time to waste, so he tells her that if we're late, we have to go to Plan B, which is to bring Irene back in the form of a huge dragon and let her cross over the area and do a dash in the city, so they can cross the border during the dash. After much discussion, they go to the Adventurers Guild and are greeted by the clerk who has heard of them. He knows that they want to enter the restricted area, but they must first enter from level C until they reach level A. But the employee promises to let them take the level A test all the way through. The content of level A is a mock battle with a guild supervisor which been chosen. Suddenly Jelu walks in. The employee asks him, "What are you doing here?" And we realize that Jelu is the proctor of the test. Matias senses Jelu's magical signal, which is so strong that it's almost as powerful as the devil, but he's actually a human being. Jelu becomes famous in the city and is recognized as an adventurer who has reached level S, the highest level an adventurer can reach in the city. But the guild doesn't choose Jelu to observe the test, so Jelu tells them that the other observer ran away because he was afraid of Matias, claiming he had a stomachache. Jilo offers to take over and become the proctor, and the employee is surprised that Matias doesn't mind and asks him to start the test. The employee tries to warn him that no one has ever taken the test with Jelu before, and all those who have done so have failed because they didn't think they were strong enough to compete. But before they start, Jelu consults with Iris, Lori, and Alma and tells them, "You passed without a test, so go home." He then consults with Matias and says, "You're the one who's going to compete with me," because he's heard about Matias before as a demon slayer and hero of the Ice Kingdom. Before the battle begins, Matias and Jelu agree on the terms of the fight, and the two show confidence in each other, each believing himself stronger than the other. Jelu, who has never lost a fight in his life, and Matias, the demon slayer and champion of the Ice Kingdom. But Jelu tells Matias, "I'll let you use magic, but I won't use magic, and the only thing I'll use is a sword." Matias realizes that Jelu is using a spell to improve his strength without knowing it. Jelu attacks Matias and strikes him with the sword to kill him, but Matias is able to withstand the force of the blow and is unaffected by it. A fierce battle ensues between the two of them, and Matias is seen using many spells without knowing it, as if the spells are instinctive and something he was born with. In the audience, Alma and Lori are surprised that anyone can compete with Matias, and the Adventurers Guild employee is even more surprised that anyone can stand up to Jelu. During the battle, Jelu's heartbeat increases, his magic increases, his strength increases, and it's the first time Jelu has ever faced someone above his level and not been able to defeat him. Jelu uses the same method of attack as Matias after seeing it once, which means he has the power of observation and can learn quickly. Jilo uses his strongest attack. The smoke fills the place and he thinks he can defeat Matias, but Matias appears from behind the smoke, attacks him with the sword, throws it around, puts the sword in front of Jilo's face, and asks him if he wants to compete with him again. But Jilo surrenders. The clerk declares Matias the winner of the battle, and he can now take level A and enter the restricted area. Since this is the first time Jilo has lost, he asks Matias how he defeated him and how he can train until he is as strong as he is. Matias gives him a book he's familiar with and says, "Learn how to cast magic spells, and since you have the talent, if you learn this book, you'll be much stronger than me." But Jelu hates reading, so Matias tells him to find a spell to cure headaches on page 132, which he can use when he gets tired of reading. On the way, Jilo walks with Matias and his team, and offers to take the level S test and become the most powerful person in the city. But Matias's ambition is to enter the Forbidden Zone, and he's not interested in becoming the strongest in the city. When Galo asks him about the restricted area, Matias says he means the elite's fields in the Valkia region. Galo receives old news that the Valkia region has a strange aura. The atmosphere there has changed a lot lately, and the checkpoints near it are much more difficult than before. Many teams were on their way there and disappeared without anyone knowing their whereabouts, so Jelu offers to help him if he needs any help, so he doesn't hesitate and talks to him for a long time. When Matias and his team arrive at the first checkpoint, the guards stop them and ask them for their IDs. The guard hands them cards that allow them to walk on the main road and tells them to take care of themselves because the road is dangerous. As they walk, Matias notices that there is a magic code written on the cards, and on the card is written in invisible handwriting a warning to the point behind them that they are a group of 4 powerful and high-ranking adventurers with questionable motives, so deal with them as soon as you see them. But Matias doesn't care as much about words as he does about coding, because only demons use that method. Even though the guards were human beings and not demons, if you want to set up a checkpoint, you have to have the local power to do so. And since this coding method is used by demons, the entire city of Valkia could be under the control of demons. Suddenly Matias sees 4 people watching him from behind a hill and realizes they're coming to finish them off before they reach the city, so he takes Jella's word for it that there are teams that have disappeared and no one knows where they are yet, so all the teams must have been killed in this place. Iris's first thought is to get rid of them, but Matias says that if we get rid of them here, will draw the attention of the others. So we have to put them into a deep sleep, and the plan is for Matias and Iris to get their attention. Lori and Alma will go after them and take a magic device that will put the soldiers into a deep sleep. Matias creates a spell that creates illusions and makes people see themselves over and over again. They throw arrows at him, but he is able to dodge them and break the rest with his sword. At the same time, Lori activates a magic device that emits a smoke that puts anyone who smells it to sleep. Unfortunately, Lori and Alma also smell the smoke and fall asleep. Matias wakes them up with a magic spell, and they realize that they have smelled the smoke without even thinking about it. They continue on their way to the village of Valkia, and as they get closer to it, they feel signs of demonic signs in the place, and the village looks scary with many guards everywhere. The only reason people don't recognize the signs is because they hide them all the time. This means that Valkia is full of demons, and Matias and Lori feel the sign of 30 demons around the village. This means that demons work in groups, which is the opposite of what Matias said before, that demons like to work alone or in small groups. But there is a rare race of demons that have special skills that they use in combat, but they work together in groups and form entire teams of demons. And if they're the ones ruling the city, it's the worst thing that could happen to Matias in his life. Since the whole city is surrounded by guards, and the demons are the village's finances, there's no reason for them to enter through the village's direct doors. He opens a secret passageway in the center of the mountain, and tells them that this is a secret passageway that the demons are using to get to the heart of the city faster than the direct routes. They go down the passageway and smell a very unpleasant odor, and the whole passageway is empty, and in the middle of the road, Matias senses that a demon is ahead of them on the road. As usual, Iris says, "Let's get rid of it," but Matias does a spell to break through the barrier, puts his hand out in front of the demon, and does a spell that makes it invisible until they're past it. After they leave the secret passage, they enter the city, get to a side street, and look at the way people look, and they are horrified. In her mind, Lori compares Dyuma's village to this village. Although Dyuma's village didn't have a lot of people, the people in Dyuma's village were sober. But in this village, the people look like zombies, and most of them look like they have fainted or are hypnotized, and their bodies are full of strange wounds. When he catches one of the people on the street and puts his hand on his head, he discovers that people have a magic spell called intellectual paralysis, a spell that puts people in a state of stupor all the time. They walk further into the village until they come to a long queue of people, and at the end of the queue is a demon who makes them do the mental paralysis spell and forces them into a factory where they are forced to work. Matias decides to go in and see what's going on in the factory, and casts a defense spell against his and his team's mental paralysis spell. They queue up and pretend to be stunned so that they don't look different from everyone else. Suddenly, Iris spasms and falls to the ground, and one of the demons says, "You must have overdosed on magic." They make their way through the queue and enter the factory, only to find that the production at the metal refining plant is very large. Lori runs her hand over a strange stone, and Matias tells her that it's a magical Rankin mineral. The magical crystals they get from the refined mineral are used to make explosives. If they collected a large amount of 100% pure Rankin, they could blow up an entire city, but it would take decades to collect that much explosive. But the important thing is that they've figured out their plan, and they're thinking about how to neutralize it. I'm sure some clever devil has the scientific ability to think of this method instead of the traditional ones. But the only way they can defeat the devil's plan is through war. We learn that the village has about 32 demons, and that they are divided around the city in a semi-organized manner, but their main focus is on the city center, and half of the demons have the ability to work as a team, and it is impossible to separate from each other at will. And since the central facilities are in the city center, as long as they're there, they can protect it. Lori says that if they get rid of one demon, the others will know, and Alma suggests that they fight them all at once. But Matias says if we do that, they'll get rid of us, and the solution is to use their gathering against them. And at night, the demons see a huge magical signal in Area 51. Their leader tells them to locate the source of the signal and surround Area 51. The demons surround the area. They don't know what's in the area, but they must be trapped. Two of the demons find Iris in front of them, and before they can attack her, Matias swings a sword at them from behind and finishes them off. The demons are surprised to find that Matias and his team have set traps in the area and are eliminating them one by one. Matias's plan is to use Iris's power to create a magical signal, and half of the demons will gather around her in groups. Iris's role is to keep them away from the city center and drag them to the outskirts and use them as bait, and Alma and Lori will distract the teams if they gather in groups. The idea is to keep them at bay, and they'll just disappear one at a time. The idea is that half of the demons feel Iris and think they're fighting her alone and no one else. Alma grabs a magical stone mixed with an explosion spell and throws it at a demon flying over the houses, but it's not enough to defeat the demon, but it's perfect for distracting it until Matias gets rid of it. But the demons try to regain their balance again and stand on the roofs of the houses and do a spotting spell, so they know where the traps are and where Matias and his team are. But Matias reduces the power of his and his team's magic and tells them to disappear, so they can't tell the difference between them and anyone else in the city. The demon commander doesn't understand how someone can enter a village and lay traps over large areas like this while being watched at all times. When he comes across a demon corpse with sword marks, not explosives, he realizes that someone is hiding and will attack them without them realizing. Matias notices that the pattern of movement of the demons has changed. They all stay in their places and none of them run randomly, and they realize that there are no traps and the real trap is Matias, who appears and disappears. Since the demons had already gathered and understood the plan against them, Matias had no choice but to confront them directly. He kidnaps the other demons and tells them that since there are no traps and the only way to get rid of the demons is to use explosives, even if we set fire to half the city. Suddenly one of the standing demons is hit with a sword and dies on the spot, and the leader of the demons thinks that the one who hit him is Matias, who made the plan and has been fighting them ever since. But the one who actually hit him is Jelu, and he stands bravely in front of the demons with his sword. On the other hand, Matias senses a strong magical signal, so he approaches it, and the signal comes out, revealing that Jelu is there as he expected. Jelu is surrounded by demons, so Matias supports him and eliminates 2 demons, but there are only 4 demons left to eliminate. Jelu goes head-to-head with the demon leader, but despite Jelu's strength, the demon leader is much stronger than him and can shoot him in the arm. Jelu engages in a fierce duel with him, showing that he has learnt many spells from the Book of Matias, but the demon in front of him is very strong and will beat him. But Jelu tells Matias, "Don't interfere, he'll build me up," and Jelu uses the steel cutter spell. The two strike at each other, but fortunately Jelu's strike is the one that knocks the demon to the ground. They all run at Jelu as he lies on the ground, unable to move his body, not realizing that the demon is dead and his eyes are still open. The devil suddenly stands up and attacks Matias with a sword, but Matias catches up and protects himself before the devil hits him. The demon tells him that his reflexes are as impressive as ever, but promises that he will destroy the seal and return to the world to fight it, and the demon disappears into the dust. Matias knows that someone used to use the demon's body, but the body couldn't withstand the power. The only person who could do that was the boss who controlled the demons in the village, and he must have been the one who wore the demon leader's body. Jelu is still lying on the ground, unable to move, so Matias does a healing spell and heals him. After they get rid of the demons in the village, the spell that was used to paralyze the villagers is gone, the villagers are able to regain consciousness, and the village is back to normal. Jelu stands up to address the people and says, "I am the adventurer Jelu, level S, and I rule the city under emergency rule." Iris asks him about the emergency law, and he says that if the ruler of a country is absent, dead, or kidnapped, any adventurer with level S can rule the village. Jelu calls out to the people and asks them if anyone is the boss of the place, and one of them comes out and says, "I'm the boss of the factory," and Jelu appoints him as the temporary governor of the village. Before Matias and Jelu part ways, Jelu gives Matias a permit that allows him to enter the village at any time, and he goes back to school to practice on Matias's book, and Matias is excited to come back and see how he's doing after he practices. When Matias and his team arrive at the place where they are going to practice the tool, they find a huge building that they are impressed by, and Matias tells them that it must have been abandoned for thousands of years, but he does not tell them that he built it himself. They enter the building and find a pyramid. Iris asks him if he wants her to break the pyramid and take the tool out, and he says, "I made it out of materials that no matter how hard you try to break it, you won't be able to." Lori says, "I made it," and he says if Iris breaks the pyramid, it could spit out the tool. He puts his hand on the pyramid and gives it a great magical power, and the pyramid collapses, revealing a large pit underneath that resembles the tombs of the pharaohs. When they enter the pit, they find the device they are trying to rotate. He tells them to look around for weapons and equipment that they can use until the device is switched on. He puts his hand on the device and it turns green, but he is interrupted by Lori with a terrifying sword, and he thinks about what he has done all day and forgot to get rid of it before the new world comes. Iris tells him that she has the power to use it, but she doesn't know how to control it, and if she uses it wrong, it will overheat and the person holding it will be vaporized and it will be a disaster. Iris brings them a box of canned food, and he tells her that it has a talisman that will preserve the food no matter how old it is, but he's not sure how good it will be after thousands of years. When Iris opens the cans, the food is moldy and stains her face. Matias uses a magical iron rod he got from the factory and puts it on the device to locate the boss. Suddenly the device vibrates due to the magical signal, and the leader's data appears, and he realizes that he was the leader of the demons, and the one who sold the demons to the village of Demas. He then places the magic stone with the leader's insignia on the device and activates the spell. Red lightning strikes from the device in the air, the screens turn red, and the seal on the device is about to break. Matias admits that the boss is very powerful. His name is Zardius, his image appears on the screen, and in their current state they can't defeat him. If they use normal spells, they won't be able to defeat him because he has a lot of experience, but if they train with spells that last for hundreds of years, they can defeat him. And the plan in Matias's brain is that humanity could end up being the only one left. That's why he thinks of a different plan. He sees the sword that Iris grabbed, so he takes it, puts it on the device, and uses his old magical sign, so it's powerful, and they will use all the old magical tools in the world against him to defeat him. Matias thinks that he has created many weapons in the ancient world, and if he can find his sword, he can defeat him with it. He's traveling to the location of the sword and finds it in the capital city, which is home to the academy and the king's palace. Which means someone must have found the sword and put it in the king's storeroom when it wasn't there. Iris reverts to her dragon form, and they ride on the dragon's back to fly to the capital. Matias gives them magic stones to use on the sword when they find it, and Lori says, if we find the magic sword in the royal treasury, they must enter the treasury and steal it by any means. Suddenly Iris is thrown off balance when she receives a powerful magical signal from Zardius, which means that he broke his seal and is going after them, doubting that they are the ones preventing him from carrying out his plan to destroy the world. The only problem is that Zardius catches up with them before they can get the magic sword. So Matias goes to disable Zardius until they can get the sword and return it. Lori and Alma take down the magic stones and head towards the king's treasury, and all the students notice a strong magical signal coming towards them. Although the barrier prevents demons from entering the kingdom, it won't stop Zardius. On the other side, Matias and Iris stand waiting for Zardius. Matias charges his sword with magical power from his hands, and since Zardius is traveling through a demon space, Matias decides to enter the space before him and prepare for it. Suddenly, the whole atmosphere turns red because Zardius is coming. The time barrier opens, and Matias attacks him to try and stop him, but fails, and realizes that there's no way to get rid of him other than to fight him. Zardius stands in his terrifying form and Iris shoots at him, but he blocks the blow effortlessly. Zardius pulls his sword out of a time portal and says, "There's no time to waste before we destroy the world." We know that Zardius and Matias have been looking forward to this confrontation all along. Zardius shoots Iris, and Matias catches up to her before she can finish her off. Zardius lunges at him from the back and hits him quickly, and Matias realizes that Zardius is exponentially stronger and faster than any demon he's ever faced before. On the other hand, Alma and Lori reach the royal vault. The guard prevents them from entering, and the king appears behind them and tells him what's going on. He orders the guard to open the vault door immediately and let them in and take what they want. Back to Matias, who is still issuing Zardius attacks one after the other, but he can't block their blows and is unable to stop them. Matias's chances of winning are getting harder, especially since his magic is weakening the more he blocks. Alma and Lori are too late to get the magic sword, so Matias decides to sacrifice himself to save the world and win his battle against Zardius. Zardius realizes that Matias's goal is to protect the barrier, so he starts attacking him and Matias fights back. Zardius tells him that no demons can cross the barrier on land, but he has a demon in the air that will prevent Lori and Alma from reaching him with the sword. The demon will stand in front of Lori and Alma and cut them off after they find the sword and want to give it to Matias. But they cooperate with each other and manage to defeat him and get rid of him. They are surprised to find another demon standing in front of them, threatening them with their mates and saying, "Bring the sword or I'll get rid of it." Matias senses demonic magical signals from the barrier, and realizes that Zardius was the recruit of the two demons that took them out the first time in the capital. Zardius continues to hit the barricade and provokes Matias to bring out his full strength. He thinks about dying and going back to a new world and training more to defeat Zardius, but then he thinks of Lori's words and she motivates him to use his strength and win. He gathers his strength and attacks Zardius. On the other side, the students of the other academy arrive with the headmaster, and they untie their friend and attack the demon and tie him up. Lori and Alma run to deliver the magic sword to Matias, who is still resisting Zardius to the best of his ability. Matias transforms his old life energy into magical power so that he can face Zardius. Iris tries to fight back, but unfortunately, all her magic tricks don't work on Zardius and he fights back with more power than she does. Finally, Lori reaches out and throws the sword to Matias, and when he grabs the sword, the shape of the sword changes, but suddenly Zardius strikes him in the back with the sword, knocking it out of his stomach. He falls out of the air and everyone thinks he's dead, but Lori screams his name and magical energy comes out of the sword, bringing him back to life. Zardius is mad that after he hits him in the heart with the sword, it comes back, and Matias tells him that after he hit him in the heart and killed him, the sword regained its full power and Matias was going to give him a backbone to do so. Zardius and Matias engage in a fierce battle, each at the height of their powers, and Zardius notices that Matias's speed and strength are much greater than before. Zardius asks him, "How can you do all these things when you are a human being and not a demon?" He says, "I am Matias Held, the strongest sage with the weakest mark." Zardius, before he dies, says that there are other demons that will come stronger than him in the course of time, and they will be able to finish him off. The most difficult mission of Matias's life is over, and the capital returns to normal. The academy students and the headmaster go to celebrate Matias. Matias destroys his sword because it's a one-time use sword. He returns to the academy and his normal life, although he needs time to regain his full magical power. Matias and his team, along with the headmaster, go to the king's palace and thank him for letting them enter his vault and take the sword with which Matias saved the capital. The king thanks them for saving the capital and offers to grant them a wish. Matias asks him to live the life of an adventurer, and he orders the guards to open the safe and let them take what they want. They enter the vault and are amazed by the weapons they find, but Matias tells them that they are unnecessary and that I can teach you how to make them. Iris abandons all the weapons and goes in search of food. She is struck by a spear that Matias once made out of adamant, and at the same time he made a bow out of the same material that he could give to Alma. She asks the guard about it and he says it was mine and we sold it for a cheap price. They go to the company and find out that it is the largest company in the city that collects scrap metal. They ask the salesman about the bow, and he tells them that he will sharpen the bow until he turns it into metal. Strangely enough, Matias decides to buy all the metal he has and thinks he can separate the metal from the alloyed materials, and make new weapons that are more advanced than the rest of the world. Iris catches Matias's eye and wants him to buy it. Matias is surprised that Iris likes something other than food, but then he thinks that dragons like bright colors. After they finish buying what they want, they are surprised to find the manager at the door of the company telling Matias that there is an emergency and you need to come with me quickly. They go to the manager's office and meet the commander of the cavalry that Matias won on his first day at the academy. He says that 2 days ago he received a report from the border that the Sahil Empire is attacking them with 300 soldiers from the wooden puppet in front of him. Matias tests the puppet and finds that it moves with human energy, but the puppet's power isn't strong enough to sacrifice an entire human being to operate it. But the puppet steals a portion of the human souls to operate it, and the only person who could do something like that would have to be a demon. The boss asks him if he's sure that demons are in control of the Sahil Empire. Matias gives him the definitive answer that human beings fight each other to weaken each other's power. The devil must be in control of one of them, and this is one of his main tactics. And before they move, the Knight Commander asks him to save the kingdom and mankind, and to stand with them until they solve the problem. Matias and his team head out on a mission to the Sahil Empire, and the director informs them that the 4th Squadron, as soon as it's ready, will get them there. Matias thinks back to Zardius' words before he died, when he told him that other demons more powerful than himself would attack him, and that he must be prepared for them so that they don't succeed in their plan to destroy the world.